Alright, this is Silver here. Uh, it's another. I'm thinking about switching the focus of my channel away from a gaming channel solely to maybe a bit more of a podcast type of channel. But today I've got some things I want to talk about. This might be a bit longer of a video, simply based off of what I'll be talking about. It's a bit, odd. I don't know if it's really controversial so much as it is a hard topic for people to talk about. And I don't see many people actually talking about it. And it really sucks. Because for a bit of backstory, my home life wasn't that great. In school, I always just hid it. I always hid what my home life was like, because I really thought it was normal. And later in my life, I come to find out it's not really normal. It was actually a pretty rough home life. For what people would think, oh, they're a, upper middle class home, going to a decent school. They have maybe 3 cars. Their parents always wearing nice clothes, and the mom always having tons of jewelry, That was how my family was. I have 3 sisters, my mom, and my dad. And he's really my stepdad, but he's the only dad I've known for most of my life at this point. Well, when I first moved to where I'm living, or where I was living, in my old home, before I moved out, when I first moved there, everything was great, everything was good. Apparently, my family was actually pretty wealthy at that point, for some reason. I don't know exactly why. Or I do know exactly why. I'm just not gonna get into that right now, because that's a complete other story. But as the days and months and years rolled on, there were changes. There were a lot of changes, actually, in how my family was structured. It was weird. My family itself, I had an older sister, a sister who is my age, and a younger sister. And my older sister, you know how parents say, oh, they can't take favorites. But anybody with siblings knows. And parents, you really secretly know that your favorite child is the child you have first. It's the one you made all the first memories with. All the first steps, the first words, all of it. Parents tend to love the first child more than any child you have after that. This is where it gets, a bit different. Considering my family is 3, it's a 4-child family. My oldest sister, even for my stepdad, it's not his real child, but he felt like we're all his children, and my mom felt like my 2 other sisters that weren't related to me were her children. They actually felt like we were all their children. And it was sort of odd, because my older sister herself, she claims, even to this day, that she had it the worst. She claimed she had it the worst in our family. She was always the one that was, got onto. She was the one that was always getting in trouble for everything everybody else did. She always had to do more than us. But that's what she didn't realize. You have more responsibilities as the older child. You have to do more. But what she continues to forget, even to this day, is that as the older child, even if you have all these responsibilities, you get perks. There's perks to being the oldest and the youngest child. There's perks to being the oldest child. You get a lot more than the others. You get bigger allowances on things that don't really matter, like Christmas and birthdays. You get more money to play with somehow. Or at least that's how my family went. You get more money to play with. You can get more stuff. That's how my family went. We had a set amount that you get for Christmas and birthdays that you get to spend. But my older sister always got a bit more. Because what she wanted was generally more expensive. But that's, again, another story for another day. Over the years, my older sister, she got everything she wanted. She even got phones. She got a phone. The rest of us kids did not. Us younger kids weren't allowed to have a phone because our older sister messed it up for everybody. She was always in the bathroom taking pictures of herself like in a bikini and stuff like that. And talking to other people that she's not supposed to and sneaking her phone in the middle of the night. Now, kids, people younger than me anyways, aren't going to understand this concept that you can't always have your phone. Most likely. Because it's more of a tech generation. People nowadays have their phones almost always, and they never leave their phone because that's the only communication they have with each other, even if they're in the room next to you. They decide, I'm too lazy to get up, so I'm gonna text you instead, even though I could literally just lightly raise my voice and you would hear me through the wall. No, that's not an option. My family changed through the years. At first, we were, happy and everything. But there was a bit of tension. There was always a bit of tension in my family for some reason. My family was always tense. We took all these, trips back and forth between states in the US, and they were always so tense. We never really visited anywhere. We wouldn't do anything, we'd just go and come back. Again, another story for another day. I might tell that story, I might not. I might not want everybody knowing that much of my life. 'Cause I'm sure if this channel gets popular, a lot of my friends, they watch YouTube, they might recognize my voice, and they might, text me or something and be like, hey, what? You never told me this about yourself. I don't want that. I'm not a person that typically shares everything about my life. I don't typically do that, but there's some things I wanted to address in this video. Again, my family sort of always had this tension. And steadily, my parents began to argue more and more. It was always over something small generally, but as I got older and I was in high school, it was always about pills. Yes, my parents were drug addicts. They were addicted to pills. They also drank a lot. And my mom at some point got sick before I was in high school. She got sick and she couldn't drink. She couldn't drink alcohol for a long time, or else she would get violently ill and be sent to the hospital. This made her angry. This made her very angry, actually. And they started getting more angry with each other. And this, in turn, when they couldn't be angry with each other, they took it out on us, the kids. Now, my two stepsisters weren't always with us all the time. Sometimes they went to go with their mom. And for a long time, they lived with their mom before they both came over. And then more things happened. And eventually, at this point in the story, my older sister, she got angry because she wasn't allowed to have her phone. And while my mom was in the hospital, our mom was in the hospital, she pitched the biggest fit because my dad caught her with a secret phone that she had been given. And she was like, you know what? I'm done. I'm just gonna leave. Because legally, she was allowed to at that point. You know, she was 18 plus. I don't remember exactly what age we were, but I know she was older than 18 at that point. And so she left with her friend in a car while my mom was in the hospital. We were in the waiting room waiting for her. My mom was in the hospital, and my sister had the audacity to leave, making my mom very upset. So this was also another thing that threw tension into my family, making our parents even more angry with each other. And then the sister that was my age, she's a bit of a fuck up as well. She left as well for a similar reason. And then my younger sister eventually got mad at one point and left. And so it was just me in the house for a long time. And I mean, I was a child in the house. I was the only boy as well. And you think, you know, I was the quiet type. I sat in my room, and when I had the video game system, like the Wii and the GameCube, I would play that. That's all I would do. Other than that, I'm a real big nerd, and I didn't have any friends come over because we weren't allowed to have friends over. We were also not allowed to leave the house very often, so it's almost like a prison. And I just sat inside and essentially sorted Yu-Gi-Oh cards. I sorted them into piles. I eventually took up the hobby of writing, but I still write to this day. It was okay. There wasn't quite as much tension, but there was always that tension between my dad and mom that, they essentially blamed each other for making the other kids leave. And eventually my younger sister came back, and it was just me and her for a long time. But it was hard because At this point, our parents, were quite addicted to pills at this point, and they would fall asleep at odd hours. And most nights we didn't even get to eat. We would sit in our rooms and not really get to do anything. And anytime we brought up food or something that we hadn't ate that day, they would be like, oh, we'll get you something later. And near the end of the time me and my sister living with our parents, we were eating maybe 2 times a week. Yeah, that might sound really bad, but it sort of grows on you, because my parents fought nearly every day. So I became numb to the entire situation. I became numb to all of it, and through several failed relationships, I became numb to the sensation of wanting somebody there and having somebody to talk to. I barely even talked to my friends. The only times I talked to them were at school when I went to college or high school. But I was kicked out of college for reasons I can explain in another video that it still upsets me to this day. And I was done with high school. I graduated high school. So I had nothing to do. I never really talked to people. I couldn't go out, really. And a lot of things were happening in my life that made me very upset. And I had come to many breaking points to where I was just sitting there in bed. I never really did anything. I sat in bed. And it was a lot of... I even tried doing things for my parents, because they were... I just wanted them to be proud of me at points. And I was doing things for them, like I was cutting the bushes without being asked and cutting the grass. I fixed it. I literally borrowed a lawnmower from my neighbor. It broke down halfway through cutting grass. I had to fix it myself without any knowledge of ever fixing a lawnmower. I had to fix it myself. I fixed it. Surprisingly. I fixed the lawnmower and finished the lawn. Paid for the gas out of my own pocket, which I worked for the guy that I borrowed the lawnmower from. I did his yard and everything. That's another story again. But I did his lawn, and I paid for the gas for the lawnmower out of my own pocket. I borrowed tools to clean up my parents' house. And I just wanted a word of praise. I wanted them to say, oh, that looks really nice. I'm proud of you, you know? But even when I did things that they could clearly notice, they were just like, oh, thanks. And went about their day like it was nothing. Like they were owed that. And to make matters worse, they managed, or at least my dad managed, to point out some things that I didn't do. Which, that's sort of a big hit to a person's confidence in a lot of ways. And then I got injured at some point while working at my neighbor's place. I got injured, and I sort of stopped doing anything. And at that point, we were getting fed 2-something days a week, until eventually my mom snapped on my younger sister, and I had to step in, and things got really heated. things got really heated, and me and my younger sister decided that was enough. We packed up our stuff and left. We packed it all up and left. Stuff we bought. Really. Stuff we had bought for ourselves. We took a couple articles of clothing that they might have bought. But other than that, I mean, I took stuff I needed for my health. And things that I had bought. And things they didn't buy that I was given by friends as gifts. I took that kind of stuff. My sister, she took essentially everything that she bought. She's an artist. She makes a lot more money than I do. And she tried to take everything that she had bought with her own money. By this point, anything my parents had bought her were ripped, because they didn't buy us stuff very often as clothing. They were either ripped and not usable, or my other sisters had stolen them from her. And it was a hard time. I was going through a lot, and I had left. And I feel like my parents got better after that. I still talk to them. And even though my dad got injured at work, my mom has been off of pills for a year now, basically. She's been done with them, and my dad has slowly been quitting them, even though he's hurt. He injured his leg really badly. He's still not able to work, even after almost a year of therapy and surgeries and everything. That's another story that I'm probably not going to tell. And it was... I think they're getting better, but right now I'm seeing somebody else, a very close friend of mine. I'm not going to say any names. A very close friend of mine is going through almost the same situation, except there's no drug addiction in it. The person's going through a very similar situation. And it's really sad, because a lot of times the parents don't see what they're doing to their kids. Like, parents just don't see it a lot of times, and it's really sad. They think that they're doing it to strengthen their kids and make sure, they're strong for when they become adults. But when you're a kid, you are supposed to have a childhood. You are supposed to get all of the kid stuff out of the way. So when they become adults, they don't decide, hey, F you, or I can fucking cuss. What am I doing? They don't say, hey, fuck you, parents. I'm gonna go and do everything that you didn't want me to do or you taught me not to do. I'm gonna go do all of it right now because I don't like you, and you've kept me sitting here not able to do anything for all of my life. I'm gonna go do all this stuff that you didn't want me to do to spite you. And parents don't realize that that can happen, or that happens most of the time. That's how delinquents come about most of the time. It's not just from how even a, good household, even a good household by themselves can, have things like this happen. You ever seen that trope where, the really Christian homes, they always have, a daughter, and then the daughter turns out like she's a massive whore or something? Or is going out every night and just, drinking and going to parties? Yeah, That's not a joke. Like, it's really something that happens. I turned out a bit differently. I'm odd in that I took these kind of experiences that should have broken me down as a person. It should have broken me down and should have turned me into a massive scumbag. Or probably have made me do things that aren't very smart. Like hurt myself, or even worse than that. Things that your parents say and do can... honestly, they're the biggest factor in this kind of stuff happening to their child. They are the biggest factor, and they don't realize that. I've noticed it a lot, that parents don't support their children through certain times in their life when it's really hard. And it's also on the child themselves to point it out to their parent that, hey, I could really use your support right now. Like, I'm going through a lot. And then it's the parent's reaction to that that sets the precedence on how the rest of their life unfolds. Because if it's the child reaching out for help and the parent completely ignores or just shuts it down, that in and of itself could break somebody. It could break somebody in more ways than one. And it's really sad to see other people even now going through it. And I know it happens all the time. Not even just in America. You think, oh, that's not something Americans would do. It is. That's something that straight up Americans would do. But it also happens in other places in the world where parents think just because, oh, this is the culture, that I can't support my child on a decision they make. And parents, no matter what you believe in, you should believe in your child above all else. You should believe in your child. And don't hold them high and mighty. You don't want to make your child, like, believe that they're above everybody else. You want to instill in your child that they are all equal. It doesn't matter. All the social justice stuff also makes children think that they're either better than everybody else, or it beats them down and makes them feel worse. Makes them feel like garbage. All of that is really toxic. A lot of the social justice warrior crap is really toxic. I hate to say it, because I feel like some people are in the right place with it, but it's just not going well. They're making it even worse, honestly. A lot of social justice warrior stuff makes situations worse than they were. And people make fun of them now for that. They're no longer actual, like, people fighting for a cause. Now they're radicalists fighting for their ideas that make no sense, essentially, to everybody in the world. But the main issue here is the fact that I'm seeing essentially how my past went. Being locked up in a house with parents that just, even if you're doing your best, they just drag you down. I'm seeing that now in somebody that I'm very close friends with, somebody I care about. And I hate to see it, and I wish I could do something, but I can't right now. All I can tell them is, hey, I'm here for you. I've been through similar things, and maybe once the time is right, you can teach your family a lesson and essentially show them that, hey, it's not okay. You know, you can show them that it's not okay by leaving. Even no matter how hard they beg you to stay, show them that their actions are not okay by finally leaving, you know, once you're of age, of course. By leaving and starting a life of your own. Because that's really the only way a parent is going to understand, is if you decide, hey, that's not okay. Like, you can't do this to me. Not for just some reason like, oh, hey, they took my phone. That's the stupid reason. If they're legitimately, like, by the time I left my parents, I didn't realize how bad it was. Several weeks, actually almost 2 months, honestly, after the point I had left my parents, and I was getting well fed and good meals, I went to the doctor and found out I was 80 something pounds. Now, I'm 5'8", and I'm a dude. I'm a dude that's 5'8". 80 something pounds is way too small. Now, that's 2 months after. I couldn't imagine what I looked like when, like, right as I left, or even what would have happened if I had stayed. It's really confusing and really scary to think about, honestly, that I could have probably died in my parents' care because they didn't care. They thought above and all that mattered was pills and stuff like that. And after I left, they took that as motivation to finally get better and finally say no to my older sister, who had decided, hey, I'm gonna use you for money. Because that's also what they did with me. They tried to use me and all of our family for money when they needed it. And my parents are finally standing up a bit, even though sometimes they budge and are like, all right, I'll loan you some money. Even though they really can't right now because of my dad's injury. And still, the issue here is parents thinking that they know what's best when they're hurting their child. They think they know it's the best thing, or they're simply not paying enough attention to see that what they're doing with their child is hurting them more than helping them. And a child can look happy on the outside, because all of my friends always thought I could never lose my smile, because I never lost my smile around them. But that was because it wasn't real. It wasn't a real smile. At that point, I didn't have many real emotions. I was just on autopilot, trying to get through high school, thinking it would be better after high school, once I got in college. And once I was in college, it was worse, honestly, because I flunked a lot of classes because I couldn't get the funding I needed, which again is another story. And because my family didn't care enough, they couldn't get me to class on on time. And that's, again, families need to stick with families. Like, you don't need to just say, hey, I'm here for you, once things have hit their rock bottom. You need to be there for them always. You don't need to just be there once you hit rock bottom. Once you hit rock bottom, you need their help more than anything, but you need help through the entirety of it from your family. Your family needs to support you even when you're not at your bottom. Even when you're at your highest, your family needs to support you. They don't need to be like, hey, you're the highest you could be. Hey, can I get some of that? They don't need to do that. And if your family does, at that point, you need to find somebody and a group of people, honestly, that supports you even when you're at your highest. Even if you hit rock bottom, if all those people that were when you were at your highest leave you, they weren't your friends. They were just there because you were at your highest, and they were there for the clout or what you gave them, essentially. So I understand I've pretty much basically said, hey, you can't trust anybody, but trust is very hard to earn and very hard to gain. Once you find the right group of friends, which I know a lot of people that say they can never find the right group of friends, it's because they're looking in all the wrong places. And you can find a group of friends that'll help you through no matter what you're going through. I know it sounds hard for people that are going through a lot. I know it sounds hard and impossible even. If you're a weirdo like me, you think it's impossible to find anybody that'll be there for you always. But it is possible. It's possible to find those people. They're out there. There's a group of people for you that will be there no matter what. And you just need to find those people. And this was mainly supposed to be about parents supporting their children and children asking their parents for support. And if your parents don't give you that support or aren't giving you the support you need, essentially you teach them a lesson by getting through everything you need to, and once you're old enough, teaching them that lesson by saying, hey, I'm going to be a person. I'm going to prove that what you've done isn't going to stop me. It's going to be okay. All right? That's all I want to say. It's going to be okay. Time is ever fleeting, and in time, you'll find people that will support you, and you'll find true friends. You'll find everything you need. It sounds rough for people going through a tough spot, but I promise, trust me, I might just sound like some weirdo on the internet that's trying to tell you, hey, give it time and everything will be alright. But I've been through a lot. And I mean, pretty much anything a person can go through in their lifetime, I've been through. So trust me when I say that everything will get better with time and by finding the right group of friends. And even if your parents, for younger groups, even if your parents don't let you talk to people, like my parents did. I never had a phone till I was 20 years old. Now that might sound crazy to the younger lot, that I didn't have a phone till I was 20 years old. And that's because I grew up in a different time. And I really didn't care because I had become numb to a lot. It's... Even if your parents say, hey, you can't talk to anybody. Hey, you can't play online. You can't do that. Just tough it out until you can teach them a lesson by being better than anything they could have hoped for. You teach them a lesson. And when they say, hey, I taught you that, say, no, I taught myself this because you wouldn't teach me this. Tell it to their face that you didn't get it from them. You got it from you. That everything that you've become, it's because of you, not because of them. They might have helped along the way, but it's eventually all down to you as a person, as an individual. It's all up to you to decide how your life goes and what you decide is okay and what's not okay. Now, I'm not telling you, hey, you can go do whatever you want, because you have to abide by the laws, and I'm never telling you to be a dick to everybody. That's just not okay. I don't like people being dicks to me. I don't like being a dick to other people. That's just how I am. But that's another subject for another day. This has become a 40-minute video of you just staring at a logo, essentially, listening to me fucking talk like a fucking idiot, rambling on and on. But at the end of the day, the lesson is time will prove to be on your side. You just have to give it time. You have to give time, and you have to push forward regardless of what happens. So, I guess with that, I'll wrap up the video. Please share this to somebody you think is having a tough time. Share it with people that you think are going through similar things. And like the video if you honestly think it's a decent video. Subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this. Tell me in the comments what kind of video you want me to do next, if you want me to play a game, or if you want me just to fucking ramble on more like an idiot. Tell me in the comments. I appreciate anybody who got this far in the video, because most people watch a minute of my video and click off. So, thank you if you've watched this far. And I'll see you in the next one.